Hey, 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 what's going on, Sifters? And welcome to this week's edition of Ask Shane Anything right here on Sifted Games at sifted.net. I'm Shane Satterfield. I put the Shane in Ask Shane Anything, and I am here to answer your questions about literally anything. Most of the questions are related to gaming, but I'll answer questions about whatever you got. This show happens because a lot of you awesome guys and girls are pledging at $7 or more per month at patreon.com/sifted. Would love it if you could head over there and poke around, look at our tiers, maybe give us a pledge if you can. That would be awesome. This show also happens because you guys and girls, every week, go to sifted.net, you click that link in the header, and you go and ask me questions, and we need more for next week. So once you get done watching this, head on over and ask me some more. Here's the thing, we got great questions for this week's show. Let's get to them. Okay, our first question comes from a regular contributor to Ask Shane Anything, and that is Kevin. More price increases for Game Pass. What are your thoughts on these new increases now that the Ultimate tier went up to $30 per month? So, if you haven't been on Sifted and you somehow missed the news, yesterday Microsoft announced that it is jacking up the price of Game Pass Ultimate from $20 a month to $30 a month. That's like a 50% increase. Don't forget, this is the second increase in the last 12 months. Beside that, Game Pass for PC went from $11 to $16, and that is just a straight-up price increase. You're getting no extra features. The basic tier basically remained the same. It's $10 a month to play online, and now they've added some game streaming stuff to that tier, although I would argue that tier should probably be $5 a month instead of $10 a month. And then in the Ultimate tier, they did add like the back catalog of Ubisoft's games. Like, you're not getting Ubisoft's day one games, you're getting their old games. So to me, that's not much of a value add. Microsoft in these presentations, and I use that word plural because it literally put out 10 trailers yesterday trying to soften the blow of this, where it put out trailers for each new tier of Game Pass, trying to explain to you what you were getting in these new, more expensive tiers. And a lot of it was like, oh, now you get $1,000 special bonus for this program that nobody ever uses. That was how they tried to rationalize a lot of these price increases. So you ask me, what are my thoughts? I think Microsoft is insane. Insane. It is doing the exact opposite of what it should have done. It should have created this dirt cheap $5 a month game streaming only plus maybe Xbox Live thing for $5 a month. That's how you get the service to take off. It's not increasing the price and offering very little improvements for the player. And that's how I look at pretty much all of these. I don't care about some goofy Microsoft points program. I don't even know how many points I have right now. I don't care. I care about how much am I going to pay for this service every month that I use. I don't use the points program. I did maybe use Game Pass. This is bonkers. It's so confounding that it almost feels like, and it almost dips into like conspiracy theory here, it almost feels like Microsoft is trying to kill Game Pass to give itself like an excuse to bail on Game Pass and maybe go back to either its old system where it's selling consoles and selling its games at full price, or maybe to a system where it just becomes a third-party publisher and it has no Game Pass, no hardware or anything. It's literally just releasing games for PlayStation, Switch, and PC. That, to me, seems like the more likely scenario. Here's the thing. Microsoft is in a huge hole. Like, I just saw this week someone from Microsoft, I think maybe it was Sarah Bond or something, someone from Microsoft said that Game Pass is profitable. And once again, dodged the question of, well, does that count how much you're spending on game development? Does that include $69 billion that you spent on Activision Blizzard? Is all that tied into Game Pass being profitable? Or are you just looking at like your server costs and how much you pay every month to the game companies to have those games on Game Pass, and that you're making more money than that? That's what I think is going on when they say that Game Pass is profitable. I mean, I don't understand how your subscriber base has been stuck at around 30 million users for like 4 or 5 years now, and you think the solution to that is increasing the price? Look, if adding Ubisoft's old games to your service caused the service to go up by $10 a month, no! No, it's not worth it. Did you talk to anybody about this, Microsoft? Did you talk to any players? I don't know what the hell is going on at Microsoft. It is insane what it's done. And here's the thing, like, it knew that this was going to be unpopular. That's why it put out like 10 trailers about Game Pass yesterday. It knew fans were going to freak out about it, which leads me to believe that there's something else going on here. And again, I hate conspiracy theories. I'm a journalist. I like to stick to the facts. But the truth is that Microsoft won't give us the facts so we can figure this stuff out. It won't tell us how it's calculating whether Game Pass is profitable or how much money it makes and what the outlay is. We don't know. So we're supposed to take Microsoft's word for it while it keeps jacking up the price of Game Pass. This is insane. I saw that yesterday, after this all came out, the webpage where people had to go to cancel Game Pass, it either went down because of too much traffic or Microsoft took it down and made it look like it went down because of traffic, hoping that people would cool off after 24 hours and decide in the end, you know what, I'll keep Game Pass. I don't know. Again, conspiracies, because we don't have facts. Teleport yourself back 5-7 years ago, even when you knew that Game Pass was going to be a thing. But imagine before you knew Game Pass was going to be a thing, and if I told you this is where we were going to be at in 2025, you never would have believed it. Because here's the crazy thing. Look at this month. There are 3 awesome exclusive games coming out from Microsoft Studios. You have Ninja Gaiden, you have Keeper, you have The Outer Worlds 2, all in one month. The bottom line is Microsoft just totally screwed up going down this Game Pass path, because now it actually has the studios and the games to whoop PlayStation's ass, but it has put itself in this hole where it can't do it. So maybe that's what Microsoft is thinking here, is like, dang, like we might actually be able to win next gen if we do things the old way. I don't know. It's all conspiracies, but the bottom line is it's crazy. There's no logic to this at all, and it's just going to make people want to stop using Game Pass and stop subscribing to Game Pass. And if that's the goal, great job, Microsoft. So I'm very interested to hear what Michael Pachter has to say about this when we go to record episodes tomorrow. And I'm assuming that some of you guys have asked this question. I would hope not, and if not, go ask that question right now. But anyway, I can't wait to hear what Pachter says about this, because I'll be honest with you, I'm completely confused and my mind is blown. Okay, next up I'm going to cool down a little bit. I'm going to answer a question from Joaquin Dragoon. I love RPGs, but one of my pet peeves is the silent protagonist. I thought with the arrival of disc-based media that voice acting would just be a given, but now the silent protagonist is even more prevalent. Do you agree? Well, Joaquin Dragoon, I agree and I disagree. I agree that I hate silent protagonists. Now, here's the thing. Sometimes the silent protagonist is a part of the plot. They've had childhood trauma that have made them a mute and they don't speak or whatever. That I can kind of get around, and I would argue that back in the day, sometimes it felt like the plots were designed that way to make an excuse for the fact that there was no voice acting. So you're right. I mean, disc-based media with all the storage space, there should be no excuse for not including voice acting, because that was like in the Nintendo cartridge days. That was its excuse. Well, we have these cartridges and audio takes up so much space, and so there's no voice acting in our games, and the music's all tinny and it's compressed and it sucks. Once we got discs with the PS1 and PC, there is really no excuse to not have voice acting anymore. But you're right. It has continued to perpetuate, and not every game that has a silent protagonist has a mechanism in the story for why that's the case. It just is the case. The most guilty party of all is Nintendo with the Zelda franchise. Forever, he was the silent protagonist. He would never say anything. And then I believe it was Skyward Sword, where they recognized, like, you know, he's actually talking to these people. Like, even if we can't hear him, we should at least maybe see him talk a little bit. And so there were these weird, like, flappy jaw sequences. And again, I think it was Skyward Sword. Still, we don't have any voice acting for Link in the Zelda games. But here comes the Zelda movie, where he is absolutely going to talk. He is going to talk the whole way through the movie. And once that happens, now there's really no excuse for Nintendo to not have Link talk inside Zelda games. To have a franchise that's that big and have no voice acting in it, that's insane. That is completely insane. So to have the lead character for one of the biggest franchises in the industry not say anything, I think that's going to change. I think that'll be one of the big revelations from the next Zelda game, is that Link will talk. And he's going to have to, because once he does it in the film, people are going to go to play the game and be like, this is weird. Like, I just heard Link talk for 2 hours and now he doesn't talk in this. So yes, I do agree. The developers have been dragging their feet with the silent protagonist. And here's the crazy part is like, you can play all these indie RPGs that may not even have cutscenes, but they'll have like the talking head thing for the cinematics, and those will be voiced like the whole way through the game. Every indie game is pretty much like that now. So you're right. There is no excuse for silent protagonists in RPGs in 2025. Now the other part of your statement, though, which is that it's more prevalent now than ever. That part I do not agree with. I mean, if you go back to like the 8-bit and 16-bit eras, most of the RPGs didn't have any voice acting. Now, again, you said with the advent of the disc drive after PlayStation 1, but even a lot of PlayStation 1 JRPGs didn't have voice acting. So I do think that in the past, it has been more prevalent. I think developers have gotten better at it because, again, even indie games, indie RPGs have full-on voice acting now. So I think for the most part, in today's environment, I don't think that there's really an excuse for a lack of storage space or a lack of budget or anything like that. Now, voice acting obviously isn't at an expense, but if a little indie game that's made by 15 people can afford voice acting that's passable, maybe not great, but passable, then your big budget games can absolutely afford to pay people for voice acting. So I don't think it's a budget thing. I don't think it's a medium or storage space thing. I think when they do it now, it's for creative reasons. And I think the most recent game that was a big budget game besides Zelda that had a silent protagonist was like a Fire Emblem game. So just the fact that I'm having to think about the last time I played a game with a silent protagonist shows you that it's not really as prevalent as it used to be. Okay, last up in this episode, this question comes from the Sandman. Hey, Shane. Hey, Sandman. You said it was going to be busy with game releases until the end of the year, and you've had to pick and choose which games to cover. What would you do in this scenario? There are 2 new games being released. One game is under the radar, but the publisher gave you a free code. The other has a lot of hype, but you have to pay for it. With your time limited, do you prioritize the supplied gaming code to maintain a relationship with the company? So here's the first thing I would say is money has nothing to do with any decision that I make ever, editorially. Like, as far as, like, did I have to pay for it? Did they give it to me for free? That has no bearing on how I evaluate a game and whether or not it makes it into GameFace or any of the other content that we do. It is all about you. It's all about what you guys care about and what you guys are interested in. So if I am looking at 2 games, I'm going to be doing this for the next, like, month and a half, 2 months through October and November. If I have, like, I can generally cover pretty well, like 3 games a week. I can't finish all 3 games, obviously, but I can play 3 of them a good bit. Like, and usually one of them I can finish or get close to finishing. So that's about what I can handle in a week doing all the other stuff that I do. And that's, that's me dedicating like 80 hours a week to what I'm doing here. But anyway, I can get through like 3. There are going to be decisions like that coming up here in the next 2 months. So what I will do is I will go and look at the back end of SIFTD, or just go and look at the live site and see what you guys care about. Like, which games are you liking? Which trailers are you watching? Which previews are you watching? Which games are getting a lot of comments and stuff like that? That's how I decide it. That's it. I figure out what you guys care about, just like SIFTD. I figure out what you guys care about, and I deliver it to you. I mean, that's kind of our mantra in general. That's what the site does. You tell us like what genres and platforms and all that kind of stuff you care about. We give you a custom feed of content depending on what you care about. Same thing with our content. We go and look at what your actual activity is on the site, and that's how we decide to program our content, stuff we will talk about or we won't talk about. And that's pretty much as simple as that. Now, you are getting into something that I would at least think about, which is our relationships with publishers. That is very important. And I've been doing this for 30 years, and with a lot of these PR people, it's like I've been working with them for 3 decades. So it's not like I have to worry about our relationship getting soured. So that's not something I would consider too much unless, let's say, like, we don't get code from PlayStation. Let's say that suddenly PlayStation reached out to me and was like, hey, Shane, I know we completely have forsaken you for the last 10 years and acted like you're dead after you put our games on TV for 2 decades. But hey, we're back and we want to work with you guys again. I mean, if they were to do that and I had like the new God of War that Sony had given to me and some other game is maybe not quite as big, but, I didn't get a code for that, like, I'm going to cover the PlayStation game because, again, you're going to care about it more. And as a bonus, it would also help my relationship with PlayStation. So that stuff is just a bonus. It's a value add. It's not what drives how we program our content. It does not determine what we decide to cover or not. That is all about you and your activity on the website and our social media and all those places like that. So just like with the website, you guys drive the content that we create. Okay, that's it for this week's edition of Ask Shane Anything. Thanks to everybody who asked questions this week. Thanks to everybody who has questions already in the forums. We're going to need more. Head to SIFTD.net. There's a link up there in the header. Just click it. Go to our forums. Ask me a question. You don't have to be a patron. You don't have to be anything. You just have to like video games or just have an interesting question about something else, and I'll answer it. Thanks to everybody who's pledging anything at patreon.com/SIFTD. You guys are awesome. I love you guys so much, and I appreciate you so much. Some people are pledging at a $7 tier there. That's why this show keeps happening. You guys get double the love, but I love you guys, all you guys. So thanks for watching. We'll see you guys next week. And don't forget, sleep is for the dead. Play games instead.